Hi everyone, welcome back to my Dev Web App channel. Today I'll show you how to work with context in React. I'm going to use function create context and hook use context. Let's take a look at the design. I have a weather app and I'm going to add a units setting that will allow to fetch and display data in different units like temperature and wind speed. And now I'm going to press Fahrenheit button and as you can see the data was changed and we have our temperature in Fahrenheit and also we have wind speed in miles per hour and I'm going to return back to Celsius and as you can see, the data was changed again, and we see Celsius and meters per second. And the problem is that the setting is in a header, and fetching and displaying the data are in other components, and that's why we need to use context. And let's go to the code and add our setting. I launched my Visual Studio Code and open Weather App project, and now I'm going to create a new file for using a context, and I'm going to add it inside hook. Hooks, I'll use hook, and I'll create my own hook, and it will be use metrics, and I will name it JSX because I'll use JSX inside it, and now I'm going to check docs and we can use create context. And I'm going to copy paste this code and rename to metrics context text. Okay, create context and I will remove this slide. And now I'm going to create my own hook port const and hook will be use metrics and it will be function and I'm going to use context hook and provide my metrics context. Okay, and now we need some provider and let's check the docs and I'm going to copy paste this code from React doc and we'll add export function, rename it to metrics provider and return and I'm going to use object inside use state as initial value and we'll change it further and as name I'll add metrics and the function will be set metrics. Okay, and now I need to change metrics context and also I can add props children and inside page I'll provide my children. Okay, and now we can change value and need to change the name. Okay, value will provide metrics and I'll add object here. Let me add toggle metric function const toggle metric and to create arrow function. And for now, I'll just add function to pass as a value to my object. Okay, and now we can define metrics for our state. And for that, I'm going to use OpenWeatherMap docs, and we have this unit parameter, and I'm going to use metric and imperial. And for metric, we'll have Celsius, and for imperial, Fahrenheit. And also for wind, we'll have meter per second, and also for imperial, we'll have miles per hour. Okay, and let's add objects that will define our metrics. And first object will be metric, and it will have units. And for units, I'm going to create const, export const variable metric, and I'll use this variable in my code in other components, metric, and I'll provide it here. And also I'm going to add property temperature and define as Celsius, and also for wind I'll add meter per second. Okay, and now I can copy paste this metric and rename it to imperial, and units will be imperial, and temperature will be Fahrenheit, and wind will be miles per hour. Okay, and as default metric, we'll have metric. Okay, and inside Google metric, I'm going to implement a function. Let me set metrics, and I'll use a previous value and will name it as current metric, and will return value to set metrics. And let's check if current metric and units equals to metric, then I'm going to return copy of imperial, and otherwise I'll return copy of metric. Okay, and we have our use metrics hook, and also we have metrics provider. I need to change metrics provider, and let's add it to our app JSX to use our context. I need to import and add my components, and they will be passed as children and will be provided here. Okay, and now I'm going to modify my header, and we'll use our hook use metrics, and this hook will return me the metrics, and I can use const, and will retrieve assign and retrieve metrics, and also will retrieve function toggle metric. Okay, and now let's add one more button for changing metrics, and depending on metric units, and let's check if metric units equals to our metric, and I'm going to import it from hook. It's a constant. Then I'll provide Fahrenheit, and otherwise I'll provide Celsius. Okay, and also I will use our toggle metric to on click, and it should toggle the metric. Okay, and now let me start on dev server with command npm run dev. Project was created with Weta. And let's check what we have so far. Okay, and I have some error. Let me open developer pool. Okay, and I'm going to check. Let me hide the panel. And use state not defined, and I'm going to add import, and I can add it here. Okay, let's check again. Okay, we have our button, and I can press. Okay, and I have Celsius, and then I have Fahrenheit. Okay, looks good so far, and we need to add functionality. But first of all, let's add some classes to move the button closer to dark mode. Okay, and for that, I'm going to modify my classes for button, and probably I'll need some container for buttons. I'll just add div and close it here, and let's check. Okay, and we need some margin, and let me add for button margin right 2. Let's check again. Okay, and we have our button, and now we can implement functionality for retrieving units depending on the settings, and change the values like Celsius to Fahrenheit. Okay, and for that I'm going to open my use fetch weather hook, and I'll use my use metrics hook, and import was added, and now I can retrieve metrics and metrics, and I need units, and let's define. Okay, I'm going to extract units with object destructoring, destruct units from metrics, and I have use query hook and query key, and now we need to modify key to also make sure that we have units, and for different units we'll have different keys, and also I'll provide units to my functions like fetch weather by city and fetch weather by cars. And now I need to modify my functions by providing one more parameter. And previously we used only metric, but now I'm going to use units depending on the setting, and also here. Okay, and now we need to change the data in our components. Let's go to weather card, and I'm going to extract the data here with also use metrics, and I need const, and will retrieve my metrics, and now I can display, instead of meter per second, I'll use my metrics and will provide wind. And also we have Celsius, and instead of that I'm going to use my metrics and provide temperature. Okay, and let's check what I have so far. And we have some probably error. I can reload the page, and I'm going to press the button, and we have 50, and we have Fahrenheit, and also we have miles per second, and as you can see, the values were changed for forecast, and we need to change Celsius for Fahrenheit, and also here. And for that, I'm going to open my forecast, and let's copy this. Use metrics, and inside forecast, I also use my hook, and instead of meter per second, I'll use values from my metrics wind, and also we need to change Celsius. Okay, I found it, and I'll use metrics and will provide temperature. Okay, and let's check again. I'm going to refresh, press Fahrenheit, and we have different values, and also here we have Fahrenheit and miles per hour. Okay, that works so far, and let's do final testing. I'm going to open network tab and reload the page, and we have some, I don't know, error, but I'm going to provide city and press search, and we have requests for our metric, and we can check by load, and we have units metric, and also we have forecast for metric, and now I can retrieve data for Fahrenheit. Okay, and we have two more requests, but now units are imperial, and we have our Fahrenheit data, and we have our miles per hour. And let me change city to Berlin, and we have data for imperial, and we have Fahrenheit, and now I'm going to change to Fahrenheit to Celsius, and we retrieved data for units metric, and let's change back to Fahrenheit, and now we don't have any requests because we use query, and we use our data from the state. And let me check again for London, and this time we don't make any requests again, and let's check dark mode, and dark mode works, and I can return to light and return to Celsius, and everything is looking good and is working, and that's all that I had for today. If you like the video, subscribe to my DevWebApp channel, like the video. I'll provide the links in the video description. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.